usual, some guidelines for you to solve the exercise. We are at the second exercise, and the topic is to calculate the MER, the minimum energy requirement of an industrial process, by using the problem table method that the professor has just explained. The main goal of the exercise is first to apply what you have learned in the last weeks, so to, at the beginning, estimate the current energy bill of the industrial process. Then you will apply the process table method to estimate the minimum energy requirement. In this case, you will be able to draw the composite curves of the process, compute the heat cascade, and to draw the ground composite curves that you have just seen during the lecture. Finally, you can estimate the energy saving under the minimum energy requirement, estimate the new energy bill of the process, and finally to identify the penalized heat exchangers that you have in the process. So this is the industrial process you will be looking at. You have two inputs, which are here, feed 1, feed 2, and feed 1, and you have two outputs, product 2, product 1, and some gas. You will have heat exchangers like this or that. You will have chemical reactions, but you are not asked to look at them, and mixing, splitting, and so on. So finally, the first step is to compute the energy bill. So as usual, you have to apply energy balances and mass balances to have all the temperatures of the process. So for example, you are missing the temperature 2, 3, and 12. Temperature 2 is here. You have the heat exchanger 1, you know the heat load of the heat exchanger 1, and you also have the heat capacity of flow A, which is specified in the project description. So with the neat balance, you will be able to calculate the temperature T2. And you will proceed in that way to compute the temperature 3 and temperature 12, as well as the heat capacity of stream B, which is unknown. Then you will assume that all the hot utility is a boiler, and you can take an efficiency of 85% in terms of the lower heating value to compute the operating cost of the boiler. You are given also the operating time of the process in the project description. And as a cold utility, you can assume that you have cooling water entering in the system at 25 degrees, exiting at 35 degrees, with the usual assumption of the cooling water. And in this way, you will be able also to compute the operating cost of the cooling water, which you need here and here in the two cold utility. Then you have in the process 4 streams. You can identify the hot and the cold streams. As the professor said, the cold streams are the ones which have to be cooled down, which have to be heated up, while the hot streams are the ones which have to be cooled down. So you can represent all the streams in a TQ diagram with their inlet and outlet temperature. And then what you can do is to start with the cold streams, for example, and identify different temperature intervals. And for each temperature interval, sum up the heat capacity of all the streams. So hot and cold streams separately. For example, in this case, we are looking at the cold streams. So we have 3 intervals. In the first one, so from this temperature to this temperature, you have only one stream, cold stream 1. So you take its heat capacity. In the temperature interval, in the medium one, you have the 2 of them existing, so this one and here. And you have to sum up the 2 heat capacity. And finally, in the third temperature interval, you have only cold stream 2, so you take its heat capacity. And doing that, you will have only one cold stream and one hot stream, which will give you the composite curves. So if you look at it, so for example, in the cold stream, you can identify the 3 temperature intervals we were looking at before. So it means that the slope in each interval is given by the heat capacity, overall heat capacity, which you have calculated before. And you do it also for the hot streams. And in this graph, as the professor mentioned, the curve can be shifted horizontally. And by shifting them, you will identify the minimum temperature interval, which is the minimum distance between the hot and the cold curve, so here. The minimum temperature interval will give you the hot and the cold utility. So once you define that value, you will have the minimum energy requirement. So how much heat you have to provide to the process and how much heat you have to subtract from the process. So in this exercise, you can take different minimum temperature interval, for example, 1, 3, 5, 10, 15. You have to do the progress table method by yourself, by hand, so it's a bit boring. So if you don't want to, if you get the procedure, then it's not needed to solve it for all the values. So, and also you can see from this graph that you can actually identify the MER already graphically, but there is the other method which is more precise. And for doing that, the first step is to switch to the corrected temperatures. So once you have defined the temperature, the minimum temperature interval, you have to correct all the temperatures of all your streams. For the hot streams, you will shift them vertically by an amount that is given by half of your delta T min. But for the cold streams, you will shift them by rising all temperatures by the same amount. Doing that, if we go back to our curve, doing that, the two curves will touch at a point which is the pinch point. Then, so you have all the temperatures corrected of your process. You list them by starting with the highest temperature towards the lower temperature. And for each temperature, so between each temperature, you will have a temperature interval. And you have to check which streams are activated in that temperature interval. For example, in your exercise, you have 4 streams. And here, for example, I suppose that the second hot stream and the second cold stream are crossing that temperature interval. You have to calculate the overall heat capacity of that temperature interval by making the sum of the two heat capacity. The cold streams are always with the negative heat capacity and the hot stream with the positive heat capacity. Then you can compute the heat load of that temperature interval by simply multiplying the overall heat capacity by the temperature interval. And then you have this amount that is R, which is the heat that is cascaded from each temperature interval to the lower temperature interval. So in this case, we make, at the first step, we make the assumption that no heat is given to the first temperature interval, while the second temperature interval will give an heat load equal to its heat load that you have just computed to the following temperature interval. And you go on like that with all your temperature intervals. So for each of them, if we summarize, you compute the temperature interval, you compute the overall heat capacity by summing up the heat capacity of each stream which is crossing that temperature interval, positive for hot streams, negative for cold streams. You compute the heat load, and then you sum up this heat load with its sign to the previous heat load which was cascaded to that temperature interval. So here you have a sum, and every time you add this value, starting from 0. So finally, you will have a column of it, which is cascaded, and these values can have a negative value. And in particular, you will be looking at the most negative one, so at the lowest value. But since it's it which is cascaded to other interval, it cannot be actually negative. But this is because we made the assumption that the first one doesn't receive any heat. So it means that we are making the assumption that we don't have any hot utility. But this might be wrong. If it's true, then you won't have negative values. It means that your heat cascade is closed. You don't need any heat supply. If it is wrong, then you have to take the minimum one, you take the absolute value, and you will add it to all the intervals. So finally, all your values here will be positive. The first one will give the hot utility requirement. The last one at the lowest temperature value will give you the cold utility requirement. Together, if you sum them up, you will have the minimum energy requirement of your process. And finally, if you make a plot of all these values with respect to all the temperature, you will have the grand composite curve. The third question of the exercise is to compute the energy savings. So you have to compare what your energy requirements in the current state with the energy requirements that you get with the MER in the minimum energy requirement option. You have different delta T min, so you should do it for all of them because according to each value you will have a different minimum energy requirement. And you can also compute, of course, the new energy bill. You can make the same assumption that you have done for the first question, so same operating hours, same cost for the cooling water or for the natural gas, and you can compute your new energy bill and, of course, also the savings in terms of cost with the current scenario. Finally, you should identify the penalizing heat exchangers. As you have been told during the lectures, penalizing heat exchangers are those when you have a cold utility above the pinch point, a hot utility below the pinch point, or an heat exchanger process which is crossing the pinch point. So in the process, you are bringing it from above the pinch point to below the pinch point. All of them, they are penalizing because of the principle of more in, more out. So for example, if you use a cold utility above the pinch point, it means that it's the example here in this graph. So this one is a process stream, for example, and you are satisfying it with a cold utility, and this part is above the pinch point. But actually, this part of the process stream could have been used to heat up other cold streams belonging to your process, so that you don't need a hot utility for those. Because above the pinch point, you need a hot utility. If you are wasting this amount of heat with the cold utility, then you lose it. So that's why it's penalizing. And the same principle holds for the hot utility below the pinch point. So below the pinch point, in general, you need a cold utility. In this case, you might have a cold process stream, but you are heating it up with a hot utility, and you are below the pinch point. So you are taking off this stream from the process. As you guys are a bit lost, but maybe when you will think of it, it will make sense. And the same happens if you transfer it between the process from above the pinch point to below the pinch point. So in this case, for example, let's assume that this is the temperature of the pinch. You have two process streams, and this amount is exchanged between a stream above the pinch point and a stream below the pinch point. This is even worse because you will need more cold utility above the pinch point and more hot utility below the pinch point. So how to do it in practice? First rule, so you have to take the cold utility that you have in your process. In your case, you have just two. For those cold utility, you should do it for all the minimum temperature interval, which you have a difference, which you have identified. So you look at the pinch point in terms of corrected temperatures, and you look at the process hot stream inlet and outlet temperature, and you check that the inlet temperature of your process stream is not above the pinch point. If it is, then you are, then you are in this condition. So all the hot process in your, all the hot streams in your process which are cooled down by a cold utility must be below the pinch point. Otherwise, they are penalizing. You do the same for the hot utility, it's exactly the same. And finally, you should not have heat across the pinch point. So in this case, you take heat exchangers and mixers, as the professor mentioned, and you should check all the streams. So you check the cold streams inlet and outlet temperature and the hot stream inlet and outlet temperature with respect to the pinch point. And you can identify if the heat exchanger is penalizing or not. So to conclude, this exercise will allow you to use the problem method, the process table method, to compute the minimum energy requirement of the process. You can compare it with the current scenario to identify if you can actually improve the process. And to do that, you will be looking at the penalizing heat exchangers that are present in your process. And as usual, we'll be around, so if you have any questions, just come to us.